All right, we're going live. Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Dean Tenney, aka Series 7 Guru, coming to you from my studio in fabulous Las Vegas, where there are always very special guests. The Test Geek himself, Brian Lee, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. Tell us what exam you're taking and where you're joining us from. As our kind of get to know each other thing, we'll take care of some housekeeping. We usually start out with some debrief. I know Brian has some good debrief. I don't know if he wants to share it. We'll see if he does. I have some good debrief, but I've been teaching and tutoring all day long, so I didn't get time to put together our little, intro on debrief. So I'll just cut right to the chase and some housekeeping. I'll see if Brian wants to share anything. He did share with me one very interesting. We always get excited when we learn something new, and I certainly learned something new. I know Brian probably already knew it, but what is the IPO price of a SPAC? And I thought it could be whatever I want it to be, whatever the public market will bear. But on Debrief on 65, Brian said that the SPAC, the answer is actually $10. Being the untrusting soul I am, I used my Google machine, and that indeed seems to be the right answer. So that was a strange one for sure. If you do have a question for us, our main intent is to help you with content. So the live stream is about content for the various exams. And so if you have a question, tell us what exam you're taking so we kind of know, because depending on what exam is, depends how testable it is or is not. And it helps us pick it out of the chat. So SIE, for example, or S7 with a Q followed by your question makes it easier for me to pull that out of the chat if you're just chatting with other test takers, which is part of what it's about as well. The live stream is available as a podcast afterwards on both YouTube and Spotify. The best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel, and it's organized by playlist. So it's like a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't, and use the channel search bar. I can't tell you how many people ask me questions, and if they would just come to the channel search bar, put in combination or whatever it is, straddles, it would come up and it would show you all the content that's available. In terms of paid supplement, nothing better is a paid supplement than Brian's Test Geek paid supplements. He gives us a 20% discount on his products with Guru 20. All in is a video course that comes in at about $100, but that includes his PDFs all in. You can get the PDF separately, and then you can get the practice exam separately as well. A Kaplan Q Bank, I think, is the best Q Bank out there. And you can get a Kaplan Q Bank for Series 7. It's $58 with my 10% discount code Guru10. The SIE one I just found out today, Brian, I priced it for somebody $44.10. At the end of our sessions, we do a drawing. The drawing is for a free 30-minute coaching call. You need to claim that within 1 hour of the drawing by email to me at deantheseries7guru@gmail.com. The purpose of that is I don't like having floating contingent liabilities to people. So, I don't want somebody calling me 3 weeks from now and say, oh, I won a coaching call like 5 months ago. And, where is it? So that is recorded. It is shared. You can give it to someone else. You can share it with people you want to join together. We had some ladies that formed a syndicate for tutoring, Brian. And I did my first tutoring session off the grid at my new cabin. Won't be doing that in the near future because we still need some more work on that. But I sure appreciate them being guinea pigs. All that to say, about 3 weeks from now, if you like to watch a car wreck, tune into the live stream because I'm going to try and do it from my cabin off grid and see if it works. So we got a couple more live streams here in the big city before we go off road, so to speak. Brian, you have any more 65 debrief you want to pass on?
Yeah, there's one thing specifically, actually, part and parcel. There's two parts to it. I have been preaching from the mountaintop for years and years, and I believe you have as well, about the number of questions concerning balance sheets on the 65. Anytime I deal specifically with individuals, groups, classes, whatever, I tell them, hey, you got to know your balance sheets. And I'm talking not just the balance sheet formulas. They will get you nowhere. You need to know the actual constituents of the balance sheet. For example, the different parts of the assets. Now, It's just not current assets, fixed assets, and others. You got to know the examples of current assets, fixed assets. Don't need to know the others, and the current. So you have to know the actual constituents of the balance sheet, and you can get a good 5 questions on that. Doesn't that sound like the difference between?
High yield topic for sure. What I hear, Brian, and I totally concur with that, is that some people are expecting to get like a clean working capital question where it's not clean, where they give you the ledger entries or accounts from the balance sheet, and you got to know what part of that goes into current assets, or what is a current liability before you can get to the balance sheet calculation you're being asked for. So good debrief.
I know we have videos on balance sheets on YouTube. I have a free video on balance sheets on my YouTube channel as well. I mean, that's how important it is. If even I have one on my YouTube
and the free ones.
Pretty important.
I have, again, you just go to the channel search bar, put in balance sheet. I think I got 2 or 3 different versions of balance sheets, but I did take a long time to do it, but it's up there now. Brian has it on his channel, so check it out. 66, Alex from Connecticut. Oh, lots of money up there in Connecticut. I don't know how much is leaving for Florida, but there's. I just saw a house, Alex, some mansion that some hedge fund guy sold for like $100 million or some crazy thing. What do I think of Past Perfect? Do you think these are spies sent in by Past Perfect to see what we say? Nathan, I'll say it this way. I always tease about starting a self-study, or a support group for Past Perfect test takers. Because, boy, Past Perfect just really goes into the weeds. So good news, I guess. If you are doing well on Past Perfect, there is no reason you should not pass your exam. However, there are some people who just get stuck in the mud with Past Perfect. So not my favorite vendor, but better to have too much than not enough is what I would say. So I'm not a big fan of Past Perfect. I would certainly suggest you supplement Past Perfect with either Brian's, he takes that test stuff and distills it into, more manageable kind of a thing than Past Perfect, or a Kaplan Q Bank to confirm Past Perfect. Nathan, some broker dealers require people in Past Perfect. I think it's called lock learning or something, where you're not allowed to move on to Past Perfect Chapter 19 until you demonstrate mastery on 18. And I hate that, Nathan, because you can literally get stuck on 18 and never get out there. I've literally had people pay me to tutor them to answer Past Perfect margin questions, which I think is a total waste, because you're only going to get 2 or 3, and they're not going to be anywhere near as difficult as Past Perfect. 66 Alabama. What do you think about Past Perfect, Brian?
Same thing. It's
okay. Too high. Evening, Carla. Evening, everyone. Hi, Evan. Hello. What's going on, Ben? We're doing our Tuesday weekly community live stream, looking to help people with any content that they may have from any FINRA or NASA exam. That's what's going on for Brian and I. Well, not Brian every Tuesday, but most Tuesday. He's pretty reliable. He's usually with me, unless he's got a hockey game. Hockey game.
Or baseball. Yeah.
Or baseball. Oh, wow. Beverly Hills. My mom it was in Beverly Hills today in Rodeo Drive. So I sent her and my sister-in-law out there to Beverly Hills and Santa Monica to visit some of their friends, and they should be back tomorrow. Taking the 7 Monday. Your videos have been so helpful. You're welcome, Jake. We're sending you good test vibes. Sasha.
There's the test vibe right there. The big P.
Right. The big P. Get the P. We're getting a lot of love, Sasha. Brian's getting a ton of love on his video on definitions. So if you haven't already checked it out, please do so. Very, very popular. Brian really cuts to the chase. No extra wasted words in terms of answering that. Just even, I think it's good motivation just to go to that video and just look at the comments. I mean, that's motivational. I mean, there's lots of comments. Some people are just saying, "Oh man, this was just spot on," and thank you so much. Yeah, Who's Your Daddy is my video about whether you are going to register with the SEC as an investment advisor, or you're going to register with the state. And so check that out too. That's pretty popular as well. 66, they use 100. Well, remember, 100 million or more, you can choose. 110, you're federally covered. Right? So they could ask you either version of that. So what do they use? They can use both. So John, if I'm an investment advisor and I have 100 million or more, I can choose SEC or state. I don't know if anybody would ever choose state. 110, pretty straightforward, federally covered.
Dean, if you don't mind, if I may interject here,
Absolutely.
I don't think either of those two numbers will
really.
So
there you go. Okay.
What they often do, they'll give you an example of an IA who has 160 mil in AUM, right? So obviously they're above the threshold. That's kind of how they do it, as far as I know. I don't believe you ever. No, they're not going to test you specifically on those numbers.
Okay. Well, there you go. There you go. When acting in a principal capacity, is only the investment advisor rep and the investment advisor required to receive consent from the client? Yeah, agents and broker dealers, we don't get consent because broker dealers do that every day as part of what we do. So yeah, that I don't need consent if I'm Goldman Sachs to sell or buy bonds from my inventory. But again, remember the distinction is that broker dealers aren't fiduciaries. You know, broker dealers, I say, hey, listen, Colt, at Goldman Sachs, we're a broker dealer, and in some transactions, we'll be acting in our broker agency capacity and representing you. In other transactions, we'll be acting in our dealer principal capacity and representing Goldman Sachs. We will always, very testable, disclose the capacity that we acted. It'll be on the com firm. We'll never be both a broker and a dealer in the same trade. So that is a different relationship than an investment advisor who has a fiduciary relationship. So yes, agent BDs do not need to disclose. They do disclose, but they need to just disclose it. They don't have to have permission. Expense ratios, would it be possible to go over expense ratio and loads for open end? Now, I'm going to say something and see what Brian thinks. I can't imagine you're going to have to do anything with an expense ratio on the SIE other than know that it's 0.25, 1/4 of 1%, 25 bips for a no-load fund that they could charge and still refer to themselves as a no-load fund on the SIE. And on the SIE to know that a 12B1 promotional expense, not expense ratio, promotional expense over the life can't be more than 3/4 of 1%. And then the loads for the open end, I would definitely know 8.5% is the max load. And I would be familiar with letters of intent and, breakpoints. What do you think, Brian, in terms of that?
Yeah, very quickly, trustee, custodian, right? These are the normal expenses of running a mutual fund. That is what makes up the expense ratio. And what I was going to ask you, Dean, we know that this typically is covered in Series 6, but does the SIE go that deeply into it? And generally, what you have to know is the 12B1 fee is separate from the expense ratio, right? For distribution.
Yeah, I would definitely know the promotional expense isn't part of managing the money. We're also going to be setting up a GoFundMe page for Brian to get him some new pins for his dry erase board. But I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, SIE, or I hope I'm pronouncing it SIE, SIE. I'll say SIE. Hopefully, my apologies in advance. But really, the SIE is mainly recognition. Brian and I are getting ready to do a podcast on the SIE. And I think a lot of people get in the weeds, but it's mainly recognition, not can you calculate. Do you have to calculate current yield? Yes. Do you have to do adjustments for stock splits? Yes. Do you have to know the difference between tax and tax-free? Yes. But if you tell me you missed the SIE because of any kind of a math, I would say, I think you had bigger problems elsewhere, my friend. Now, by the way, mutual funds, remember, 33 questions on the SIE are about investments, and more people get where they're going without crashing and burning in a mutual fund than any other thing. The other thing I would comment on before we leave this behind us is make sure you can contrast a traditional open-end mutual fund with an ETF. That's testable on the SIE. That's testable on the 6. It's testable on the 7. So make sure you can do that. All right. Woohoo. So Ben, Brian, he took your advice on our call and he purchased your Series 7 test. Woohoo. By the way, the good thing about Brian's test is it's, again, correlation, right? So what I like about Brian's test, it has good correlation to the actual exam. So I'm always telling people if they're using Past Perfect or Kaplan or STC and they've got scores that are all over the place, I say, listen, we got to get a score that we can rely upon in terms of where you're at. Please do Brian's take his test. He will sell it to you for $20. But I don't know how people get confused about that. $20 is the PDF with the answer key and rationale. And we consistently, every now and again, people, oh, I got was the practice test. I go, well, that's kind of what we told you we're going to get for $20. I think it's a little more than 20, but with the 20% discount, I think it's like $20. One question about assignment. Oh, we got some debrief. Alex, thank you so much. Remember, you can't assign an investment advisory contract without the client's consent. That's very testable on 65, 66. A written authorization. 2 choices narrowed down to 55%. Majority owners passed away. That would be a change in control, right? And a 25% who sold his share. Yeah, you did the right thing. That's the right answer.
That's right, Alex.
Is a minority. Change minority just is notification. It's not assignment. All right, 63. Does that mean you're done? Usually 63 is an ending exam. A lot of people taking 63 are done. Unless, Jasmine, you did a SIE 663 and you still have to do a 65. But if you've done the SIE, the 763, as an agent of a broker dealer, then you're done. So congratulations. You have completed your testing journey. You have matriculated through the exam. Got the P. Got the P. Carla says she lost some momentum with the study, so hopefully you can get you fired back up, Carla. That's one of the reasons to join us on Tuesdays, get fired back up. I want to push the retake out, but not too far. What are your thoughts? I always think you should have a test date. I like it. You said to reschedule for 8/26. I'm not a big fan of having a studying while you don't have a test date because your brain just doesn't do well when there's not a date certain. So give yourself time enough, world enough, and time to get that done. But I think you should reverse engineer your study plan based on having a date in place. So I like 8/26. If you miss the mark, if you suffer that misfortune, I would highly recommend that you give yourself a couple days to refresh and reset, because you can be on top of this and you got to kind of let it go a little bit. And then what's that? I'm dating myself. I'm an old guy. But Toto had a song called "Hold On Loosely." Hold on loosely, right? All right, woohoo! Kudos, Claudia, investment advisor representative. And I see we have one of our all-time favorite alums in the house. Erica in the house. How are you, Erica? Passed the Semperfi. Ashton passed on 7 on Saturday. Took his Brian test on the Thursday. Got a 72. Spent Friday going to the playlist. Love it. Man, that's good execution, right?
Right.
We expect no less from a United States Marine, right? How to execute. Kudos. So what's next, Ashton? 63 or 66? Alex, thanks for joining us from LinkedIn. We broadcast to LinkedIn. We broadcast on Facebook. Hey, Brian, I'm not a big Facebook fan, but I've got my first tutoring ever from Facebook, which was crazy. So I guess there's people that use Facebook. We broadcast to, is it Twitter now or X, whatever that is. We broadcast there as well. And then our favorite spot is broadcasting from YouTube. And then remember, these weekly live streams are available as a podcast afterwards. We're getting some reverb. I'm not sure it's your mic or my mic, but we're getting some reverb. All right, another question. Oh, love it, Alex. Some more debrief. Another question was about an investor who called in about a REIT, and the agent recently learned about a REIT product from a presentation. And if the agent was to recommend the product, what type of recommendation would it be? I went with reasonable suitability. There was another question about reasonable suitability. Learned about. I'm just reading this again, Alex. It wasn't the customer who learned about the REIT from the presentation. It was the agent, right? Because that would be a distinction. If this was me and And somebody said, should I buy this thing? I'd say, well, Alex, everybody has a unique situation. So, the seminar after the seminar this evening, why didn't you sign up for an appointment? We can go over your unique situation. But I think that's a good answer. What do you think, Brian? Did he get it right?
I have no idea without knowing the other three.
Yeah. I think it sounds like a good thing. It's
I
not
mean,
going
it sounds good. Yeah.
it's not going to be quantitative. It's not going to be quantitative. So
It sounds reasonable.
yeah, there you go. Reasonable. All right. For both, there's a lot of Vicky overlap on 65, 66. I would tell you as somebody joining us on the live stream, on any 65, 66 comment that Brian and I make, you can assume it's for both unless we tell you differently. For the most part, I consider Vicky the 66 as the 65 without the economics stuff. But pretty much other than that, they're pretty very, very, very similar. Right. In fact, I sometimes will recommend, Vicky, that if somebody is really struggling on 66 and needs to be registered quickly, I say, why don't you fall back and do a 63, 65, which is the equivalent of a 66. So, very similar. You're welcome. You're welcome, Donata. They want to know, Ashton, what did you use to pass? I think he said he used, I don't know who his paid provider was, but he said he took Brian's PDF, practice test on Thursday, and they did my outline playlist. I have a 6 different playlists for the Series 7. They're all in suggested watch order, but the first one is me just going through the content outline published by FINRA, telling you what the test issues are. And so that sounds like the playlist he watched. Incentive stock option, okay. And one question about NSO with regard to tax treatment. I may have goofed up on those. ISOs is, I think, part of your taxable compensation, Brian. Is that what they're looking for, I think, on that one? NSO, what's that? Non-qualified stock option? I don't know what NSO means. Yeah, I don't even know what Alex NSO stands for.
The ISOs would.
Yeah, we know ISOs. So
yeah,
I'm not
ordinary
sure.
income.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the NSO would be. Oh, very good question, Emma. How do you determine whether a spread is debit, more money out than money in, or credit, more money in than out? So, Emma, I'm going to preview for you 2236. I'm going to preview for you a short that I'm going to make some point in the next day or two. And, Emma, that short is going to say lower, higher, longer. Lower, higher, longer. So the way you identify spreads with missing premiums is to know that lower strike call contracts always have greater premiums. Lower, higher, longer. Higher strike put contracts always have greater premiums. Longer term option contracts always have greater premiums. So, Emma, when we're looking at the spread, if it's a call spread, we're going to look at the lower strike. We either bought it or sold it. And if we bought it, it's going to be a debit call spread because it's going to cost us more. And if it's when I sold, it'll be a credit call spread. We're going to do that with the put. If we bought the higher strike, it's going to be debit. We sold the higher strike, it's going to be a credit. Brian's doing some board work. Let me give him the board space there. So here's Brian's board work.
That's exactly right. The lower, higher, it's in the textbook in Kaplan's. I use a slightly different way. There's about 3 or 4 different ways you can actually.
Yeah, there is. I use polls too sometimes because you're along the lower strike. But if Brian erased his premiums there, so see here, Emma.
Right. So those are the ones that would ultimately occur, right?
Right. So there we go. So now they're missing the premiums. And so we look at that first one and we say, okay, well, the lower strike call is the dominant leg always because it's going to have the greater premium. So you're buying that spread. That is a debit call spread, right? Because the 50 is going to have a greater premium than the 60. Lower, higher, longer, right? And then we look at the next one and we say, okay, the higher strike put is going to have the greater premium. And the higher strike put there is a 40 put, and that's the one you're selling. So that's going to be credit. Now, do you use Cal and Push for? I use that for break evens. You use that for a year or two?
It is for break even, but it can also be used.
Okay.
Since we already have the acronym. Puts, it's always the higher one. Calls, it's always the lower one. You know, like I said, there's 4 or 5 different ways you can do this.
And I will link. I have an entire video, Emma. I just told you I'm going to make a 30-second short on this, but I have an entire video that I will link to, Emma, called "Identifying Spreads, Missing Premiums." It's about 20, 30 minutes. It's a little longer than it probably should be, particularly now I just told you I'm going to do the same thing in a minute. But I will link that to you. I hope that was helpful. So the way you did
it's a very good question to ask for Series 7 too.
That's right. You know, we like doing content. So Brian is always disappointed if he doesn't get to use his whiteboard at least 2, 3, 4 times during our session. So very good question. So by the way, the other thing I would add, Emma, is that the spreads, remember, spread means difference. And what I'm doing in a spread is I'm saying, okay, well, I want to have less money out of pocket. So I'm going to sell the higher strike calls to pay for the lower strike calls. Or I'm not a stupid bear. I know I'm not going to do a naked call because that would be just stupid. So I'm going to take part of my money and buy a higher strike call just in case. All the action in a spread takes place between the strikes. So today, Brian, I had somebody ask me for a war story and how much I've had clients lose in terms of options. And so here we go, Emma. I'm going to give you an example of a spread. So I had a client. This was my idea, test question. This is solicited. I said, hey, Mark, there's a buyout, strategic buyer financing in place. I think what we should do is sell the 75 puts. The buyout goes through. The puts expire. We get to keep the money. On 10 contracts, that's $13,000. And that's exactly what we did. And that's exactly what happened. He calls me. He goes, Dean, that was so cool. He said, I found another one that's very similar, Dean. There's a rumored buyout. I said, Mark, let's just stop for a moment. A rumored buyout is much different than a buyout in place. He goes, Dean, we can sell the 240 puts for 20 points. I sell 10 of those. I get $20,000. And I said, well, Mark, I'm just looking at this right now, and call me a cynic, but if somebody's willing to give us 20 points for a 240 put with the stock at 260, they must know something we don't know. I mean, you know, and listen, you're creating an obligation to buy 1,000 shares at 240. It's 240 grand. Now, good news, you do have cash equal to the aggregate exercise price. Here we go, Emma. I said, Mark, why don't we do a credit put spread? Why don't we take part of our money that we're going to get from the 240s and buy the 220s just in case? So we're the put E at 240 and we're the put at 220. There's our floor, there's our ceiling. And we would make, in that case, 14 grand instead of 20 grand, because the credit spread, if it expires, we get to keep the money. By the way, I think he'd be a jerk, by the way, if he said, well, had I done the put without the lower strike, I would have made 20. I said, yeah, but you would have been taking all kinds of risk. Emma, he wouldn't do the credit put spread. He wouldn't do it. And at expiration, the stock was 120.
Ouch.
Oh,
ouch.
Right. So he's going to pay 240 grand for $120,000 worth of stock. And
wow.
When I called him, he said, Dean, didn't I tell you never to bother me in my cabin? I said, well, you did, but I thought this was an exception. And he said, I didn't lose 120. Remember, I got 20 up front. I said, Mark, I wish I lived in your world. If you want to think of it that way. And he goes, it's not a loss till I sell it. I go, again, I wish I lived in your world. He says, if I take the loss, I can use it on my tax return. I go, wow, what a big boy you are. I'm telling you. By the way, he said he was a big boy, Emma. And then I went to house for his dinner. He said, hey, Dean, don't bring up those puts with my wife. It's not really a good topic of discussion. Any suggestions for one needing assistance on portfolio fixed income? Well, I would separate, portfolio and fixed income. I would think they could be the same thing, but they're typically different. And client financial profile. On my past perfect practice exam, I'm losing points there for sure, not consistently understanding. Well, I would tell you that the client profile is certainly testable. And then knowing the product that would be appropriate or inappropriate would be. I don't have any, I wish I had a trick for you, Sasha. I really don't, except to, really try and practice to rehearse, get down the various types of investment vehicles. There are pivot words. So today we were doing some suitability questions, and you're looking for like pivot words like safety of principle. And you say, oh, that sounds like the government, or, Don't want to have to worry about call risk. Sounds like a 0. So there are pivot words. I don't know anything other than practice, drill, and rehearse. Do you have anything, Brian?
Well, I'm really trying to digest this sentence. Any suggestions for one needing assistance on portfolio fixed income? You're right. There's those key terms. What products? Is she looking for different products that present that? Corporate bonds, high yield, high quality.
And let's say for example, they say like we had one today, Sasha, and it said a husband and wife make $400,000. That just screams muni, an annual income, not total portfolio, right? So you're looking for those pivot words, I call them. That by the way, the other thing I say, Sasha, the pivot words are very helpful. Today when we were doing these suitability questions, I'm a big believer in what's called process of elimination. And what I mean by that is sometimes when I'm reading the question, they'll say something that means one of the choices is not going to work, right? So what I mean is I like to read the answer set, Sasha, particularly in these kind of client profile questions, and see what answers are available to me before I read the question. So then I know what's down there. So as I'm reading, then I go, oh, okay, well, that's how. Well, this one, by the way, the one of the day they had something like diversify equity, their equity portion of their portfolio. So I can toss out the bond fund that was in the answer set. Right. So maybe that's helpful. I hope that maybe that was helpful. I'm not sure Alex was on the news. I'm not sure what that. Syracuse 66. Yeah, there you go. YouTube. I've had people tell me, Brian, that they put us in their ear during the workday and use us on audio.
I hear that all the time. Yes.
Yeah.
I had somebody on the plane today coming down to Vegas from Seattle saying, "Hey, Brian, thanks for the Sirius video course." No problem.
I love it. Well, number 2, Maddie. So yeah, let's get it done, right? So I don't know what your first score was. I think that people in our business, you can't get too much self-esteem wrapped up in it, but people in our business who've had the misfortune of missing the exam and then passing, there's a lot of very successful people because, I always tell people you end up passing 2 tests, your retake, but also a test of resiliency. And passing that test of resiliency in the face of adversity bodes well. It's a huge future indicator of your success. So, I used to tell my brokers, I wasn't kidding with them. I'd say, well, hey, you failed the test. Great. And they go, why? I said, because that's going to be a great story of redemption, when you get it done, right? Yeah, I wish now, Ashton, Brian and I disagree about Q banks and how much time you should spend there, but there's a direct correlation to that. And so today we were talking about somebody who missed their mark, and I was talking to them, and we pulled up their Kaplan Q bank, and the usage rate was like 20%. That's inadequate. It's inadequate. So, I would rather you err on the high side because, by the way, I was going to recommend buying another Q bank, but she obviously doesn't need one because she's got plenty of questions still to go. So somewhere in there is a happy medium. And then again, the other thing, Ashton, that Brian and I do agree on is that you have to take a practice test 7-10 days out just so we know where you're at. So it's hard to talk to people about where they're at if we don't have a score to go from in terms of remediation. So, as a fake accountability partner, I say, hey, how many practice tests am I going to see from you? I don't want to stack them on top of each other, but this person I thought was pretty reasonable. He said he's going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday morning, Wednesday morning, Friday morning, spend the afternoon on remediation, laying base on Tuesday. And good news, he passed. So, just, make sure you're executing that study plan, whatever it is. It should include doing lots of questions and reading the book. Getting high 60s, high 70s on past perfect. Those are great. Sasha, I think you're in a good spot.
I hope she takes my Series 66 final.
Well, of course.
Again, high 60s to high 70s. I'd like to see.
Why would she not? Why would she not take it? If you don't want to spend the $20 with Brian, that's what the PDF costs you. He's been kind enough to let us have it on the channel, and you can watch me do it. Hit pause. Come up with your answer. By the way, I told you, Brian, I got somebody else when people give me grief about a Brian question, I just tell them to contact Brian. He's more than happy to talk to you. I'm tired of spending, 4 comments going back and forth with people about a question they think that Brian is not correct on. And I feel like I'm not his defense lawyer. Just call the guy up if you have a problem with this question.
The index option on Series 7.
A lot of
That's the one.
All right. Woohoo. I love it. Well, okay. You got to take the 63. So 2-1. It's okay. Oh, those scores are, I hate those almost pass scores because, it's just depressing, right? But you'll get it. You'll get it. You can pass the SIE 7. You can pass 63 for sure. I think the challenge on 63 is there's not a lot of performance opportunities, and it doesn't really have a narrative thread. I don't know if you watched it yet. I'll link it. 3513. I have a video called The Mighty 90, and it's the entire Uniform Securities Act in 90 minutes. So when I teach the 63, it's a 4-hour course. And what I try to do is, what Brian says, is distill it down to 90 minutes. So basically, it's the entire 63 in 90 minutes. So I'll link it there. Make sure you check it out.
Turning mashed potatoes into premium vodka.
There you go. Currently working through Test Geek Series 66. Very helpful in explaining actual test content. That's Brian's wheelhouse, right? That is what Brian does. So I'm glad to hear that, Evan. Glad to hear that. Taking the 7 SIE or SIE in 7. Alex is coming through with some great debrief. Big shout out for Brian. He really helped me better understand the laws and regs for 66. Made it so much easier to understand compared to pages and pages of Kaplan's book. Brian and I both have the frustration. It's not just Kaplan, by the way. But all the test prep vendors, you would think that they sit down and say, can we say it in 2 or can we say it in 20? Well, we could say it in 2, but let's take 20 pages to do it. So
you said it months ago. Textbooks never get smaller.
Yeah, it just drives me nuts. I'm more familiar with Kaplan product than I am, SIE product and Pass Perfect STC. But all of them are guilty of it. And the guy at Kaplan, I said, my God, that book is now bigger than the 7. Crazy. Cheers. I love your avatar. On my off the grid cabin, I do have some cigars, and I got my brother. I finally found one he likes. He likes to smoke the legal cannabis, but I got him a nice Honduran cigar called El Redondo, King of the World. Marcel, hey, how are you? 100 degrees in Kenner. Oh my God.
Yeah.
In Louisiana, 100 degrees is really bad because it's hot and sticky. So I hope it's not 100 degrees and 100% humidity. I've been there in Kenner is outside New Orleans. I've actually been there when it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity. Oh my goodness. Watch many of your videos. I will tell Mom you said hi. You have set Marcel, we now have other people who are saying they're going to come to Vegas and buy Brian and I dinner. So we will see. I said, come, you know where to find us. I think Brian maybe will go to Hawthorne, right? That'll be our spot.
Well, I told a gentleman told me that. He says, hey, I'm going to come to Vegas and take you and Dean out to I said, if you're coming to Vegas, we're taking you out. We know where all the good steakhouses are, right?
Well, they can pay. They can pay. I mean, the gift of community rule doesn't apply to, Well, oh, by the way, Marcel, he bought us some community coffee. He bought us a beautiful dinner. We went to South Coast, or not South Coast. What's that called? Sun Coast.
Sun Coast.
The steakhouse there.
SC Prime. Yeah.
SC Prime. Watch many of your videos. Well, thank you so much for your watch time. It's amazing to me what the channel has done because, when I started the channel during the pandemic, I never had the expectation. We are at 2,300,000 views. We have over 500,000 watch hours. Wow. And we have over 20,000 subscribers. So just incredible. I never had any idea that that would be the case. So thank you so much for your watch time. I don't think you were all 500,000 hours of that. Testing Tuesday for my 3rd attempt. 65. I got a 70. In May, July 69. You and Brian have helped out so much. Took my Kaplan Mastery Sunday 81. Now we're talking, Tricia. Now we're talking.
Simple, Tricia.
Yeah, man. If you got an 81, I don't want to put additional pressure on Tricia, but sometimes with scores like that and going the 3rd time, if we don't get it this time, I'm going to say, you don't need a tutor. You need a sports psychologist. Somebody put you in the right frame of mind. Oh, there you go. Alex is confirming what Brian said about not having to know the 90, the 100, or the 110. So there you go. There you go. Congrats. Hi, Brian and Dean. I'm taking the 7 on Monday, averaging low 70s. That's fine. Any tips for the next couple of days? Just finish strong. Stay the course. Keep grinding is what I would say.
Performance tracker, find the weak areas.
Gap one, Jeffrey has a performance tracker. And, I'm just getting more aggressive on telling people you got to get a Kaplan if you don't have one because of
That's
that.
from hanging out with me.
Yeah, because, it helps you not spend time on things you don't need to spend time on and find the things you do need to spend time on. And as your timeline collapses, that becomes more important because, you're running out of time, right? Right now, I think there's plenty of time if you're testing Monday, but as you get closer. So I don't think that you need to do anything differently than you're doing. I think low 70s on a Monday testing, Tuesday testing Monday, I think you're right where you need to be. I would just say if we could get that higher, better, but I don't think you're at risk. The way I say it is you just got to stick the landing, right? I call it the 747 principle, Jeffrey. It takes a 747, 120% of rated power to get off the ground. Seat back, nose up, trying to get that thing off the ground. And then it takes about 70% of rated power to kind of cruise. And so when you get in your study effort, the first part of your study effort is kind of depressing because you're nose back, seat up. You're just trying to get to where you got some kind of base that now you can actually read a question, know what you're being asked, know what answers are being offered to you. I mean, you're still missing questions, but at least you know what you're looking at, right? And so once you're in that 70 range, then, you just can, it's a little easier flight, right? And that's where you want to be. And so I think you're in a good spot. If you're getting below 70, like, low 60s, that means you're still in seat back, nose up mode, trying to, get to where you need to be in terms of base knowledge. Do we have videos on ethics? I do, Colt. If you look at my video playlist, there's a video and it has an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other in the thumbnail. And it's called Ethical, Unethical for 65 and 66. It is in the 66 playlist. I will link it for you 42 minutes in the replay. So those of you who haven't joined us before, what I do is afterwards, we do our work. We want to share content with you like we did, like Brian did that excellent job on debit and credit spreads. But what I also do in the timeline is then link to a video if we have it for that particular thing that somebody asked about. If it's Brian's, for example, he has a great video. It didn't come up tonight yet. Maybe it will, but he has a great video he made recently on internal rate of return, present value, time value, money. And, if that comes up, then I link it there. So it's not always my video. If Brian has a free one that's available, sometimes we'll link to his, whatever is available for us. And that way you don't have to watch the whole replay. Happy Tuesday, Trina. I would tell you tonight, too, I know some of you are joining me. We are doing our overtime session tonight on Zoom. So we don't do that every Tuesday, but we are doing that tonight. Wow, cool. Right. I love it. I got the name right. Woohoo. Yeah, Trina, I tell you, they just hurt. They just hurt. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, there you go. Right. Simpatico. There's a lot of people simpatico. So the other reason I like our Tuesdays is, misery loves company. I hope not. But, we are all simpatico. Everybody here. It's a rite of passage in our industry to have to take these damn tests and make your mark. As Brian says, get your P. So it's not something that other people haven't done. Yep. Had a question about retention of social media posts. I don't remember studying that. I would address this communication. What would you say, Brian? 5 years? That's what I would
asking for a time frame.
Yeah, retention of a social media post.
For IAs, the only thing we know of.
Yeah, for IAs, I would say 5. But with a broker dealer, I would say 3.
That's right.
Yeah. So, can we go over current yield? I bet if we ask Brian politely, he can do a current yield for us. Can you do a current yield on your board, Brian?
How quickly can we do it?
Well, you can take as long as you want, to be honest with you. I was joking. I think before Brian shows you the math, I think of current yield. I don't know if it's helpful. I think of current yield as what an investment pays me divided by what it costs me. What it pays me by what it costs me.
As the market price of the bond fluctuates, You may purchase it, let's say, at a price of $960, but the income is still fixed. So just like Dean said, what the investment pays me versus what it costs me. So that's an annual income of $50 divided by the current market price equals $960. So whatever that is, we know it's going to be greater than 5%. Right?
Yeah, that's based on our teeter totter seesaw.
Yeah.
The other thing I would tell you on most of these exams, Brian may laugh at me for this, but I think I'd be doing you a great service if I covered up your calculator keys, all of them except the divide key. If you cannot decide what math to do, I would suggest you divide. And if you can't decide what to divide, I would suggest you take the first number in the question and divide it by the second number. The vast majority of the math you're going to encounter is division, right? So by the way, if you're even after your SIE has very limited math, 3 or 4 math questions max. But on 65, 66, ratio always means division, right? You know, tax-free, taxable, division. And then Brian is showing you here a teeter-totter or seesaw that has the relationship of bonds, yields, and their price. And so again, that would be definitely something. By the way, you want to overlearn the SIE because the reason you want to overlearn is you don't want to barely pass the SIE. You want to really pass that thing because it's the base for going on to your 7 or your 6. In particular, your 7, the more base you have as you transition from the SIE to 7, the more helpful that will be because you're going to get more judgment questions, more math questions, those kind of questions on the 7. So that's called the seesaw or teeter-totter. And you want to comment on that, Brian?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to link to the teeter-totter seesaw where I have a lecture on that. No surprise. So that's a 46.
Just know it well. I mean, it's on every test. The concepts are on every exam.
Right. I haven't made it yet. I have a math video for the 7, but I don't have a math video for the SIE. And I don't really think I would make one just because I don't think there's enough math to make it worthwhile, so to speak.
No.
I guess I would add one more comment here before we move on. If you tell me you missed the SIE because of a current yield calculation, I'm not so sure I'm going to believe that. But hey, if you missed it by 1 point and that was the point, well, then there you go, right? Congratulations. Yeah, Claudia. Woohoo. Investment advisor representative in the house. IAR. The client read 2 books on investing and how much manage no account. Yeah, I would call that overconfident for sure. That's not anchoring. That's overconfidence. That's hubris, as the Greeks call it. Right? You read 2 books and now you're an expert, right? So that's hubris. Oh, look at that. A super chat. Wow, Carlos, thank you so much. Break even, max gain, max loss on what kind of an option? I don't think you'll see too many break evens on SIE. But the 2 things to remember about options is call up, put down. Call up, put down. The break-even in call contracts is strike price plus premium, and then puts at strike price less premium. I think mainly basics on the SIE, and I will link at 4820 to a lecture on basic option positions.
That was my option.
Maybe a stock plus option. I don't know. What do you think, Brian? Stock? I think a protective put.
That might be a hedge.
Hedge. So, look at this, man. We should put you right at the top of the line. Got my 3rd try tomorrow, 69 first. Any advice? I'm focusing. Well, tomorrow, really, Carlos, I like what you're spending time on, but you really need to get a good night's rest tonight because, you want your reading skills to be in top form tomorrow. So I think you don't want to work so hard tonight that you wear yourself out. So I don't know what time your test is tomorrow, but I would be low key tonight. Maybe read some notes. I have a video. If you haven't already watched it, it's called Series 7 Tips, Tricks, and Memory Aids. I checked that out. That's about 30 minutes. That's worth 30 minutes for sure. I have another video called Series 7 in 60 minutes, and I would definitely check that out as well. And what you really want to do is get into the flow of this thing. Brian, you got any suggestions for tomorrow?
Yeah, if he's on the East Coast, nighty-night.
Yeah, yeah. We're listen. I'm not kidding. We're not kidding, Carlos. This is these tests are giant reading tests, and I don't know about you, but when I'm tired, man, my reading skills are greatly diminished. So you really want to try and be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I know it's not always possible. The other thing, Carlos, at this point, I would tell you is you got to be confident in your study plan, and most importantly, to be confident in your answers. So don't be changing your answers. Go with what you know. Brian's thing, we usually do it at the end. Maybe we'll let Brian sneak it in now, but
Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you. And you're working on the exact perfect content for the test.
love it. Love it, man.
Okay.
No better mantra than that one. That is woohoo. I love it. Yeah, that's what I saw in the news. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Alex. What was it, like $100 million or some crazy thing? Yeah. Content. We love content. So here we go. Does business practices make up the majority of the USA 466? The majority is disclosures and unethical business practices. So disclosures about 12 questions, and unethical business practices about 14 questions. So those would be the two figures. You think that's about right?
Yeah, the total is 45. The ethics, I believe, you were spot on, Dean. I believe is somewhere in the 14 range.
Yeah, and then disclosure is about 12. So those are the two big areas of that. I don't know, John, if you're the one who asked about videos. I have a video on ethical practices that I'm going to link in the replay. And then disclosures, I don't have, that's unit 12. I don't think I have anything on it that's called disclosures because I usually talk about it along the way. Yeah, Past Perfect's a fine test prep vendor. They just got a lot of stuff. So, there you go. And I'm sure, John, that Past Perfect would say they're doing it intentionally, right? Hoping to stretch your mind, hope it doesn't go back to the same spot. So, Hey, Maricela. Maricella's in class from Los Angeles, and she is also from Facebook, which I told you, I'm really excited about Facebook. I'm not a Facebook fan, but there seems to be a lot of people over there. What is it, 1 billion people over there? I'm more of a LinkedIn guy, a YouTube guy, but so thank you so much for joining me for class. We're doing the SIE. I'm teaching just this 3 days. I'm teaching the Kaplan SIE, and next Monday I'm teaching the Kaplan Series 7. So Kaplan contracts with Guru Exam Prep LLC. Oh, do you like that, Brian?
Yes.
So they contract with Guru Exam Prep LLC, which is basically me, to teach classes for them every now and again. So, anyways, when they ask, I try and say yes, even though I regret it some days, like today. As much as I love our crowd, our cohort in our class, I go, oh my, this is a long day. Brian teases me because I think of myself as being retired, and some days I'm not. Getting Brian's exam this week, waiting for 7-8 day before, like I do with 7. I was referring to like corporations, limited partnerships. You do need to know business structure, Sasha, on the exam. You definitely need to know that. Present value, future value, net present value, IRR. I'm Past Perfect, I think, is overkill. I would mainly recognize input and output. And at 5319, I will link to Brian's video. He has what do you call that video? What's the title of that, Brian? Do you remember?
Discounted cash flow and IRR.
Okay, so I'll link that. And Brian is proud of that. I think rightfully so. He's not only good at these NASAA exams, but he's a geek is a term of endearment, and he is a math geek in a good way. I mean, being able to again simplify the math. I don't think Past Perfect ever simplifies the math. I think they take it to a whole new level in terms of things. I get upset, Sasha, because sometimes even Kaplan, they'll have a practice question, and Brian, I know you're never going to see it, and it's just aggravating because then people get all hung up on it. And we're like, please, you just got to move on. You got to stay focused on the test. Please link Test Geek time value. I'm going to do that. Money, John. So I'm going to link that there. So that'll be there for you. That'll be at 5319 in the replay. I've looked at my performance tracker. I need to review unit 16, which is margin. You're not going to get maybe 2 or 3 pretty straightforward. I blow off the margin. I would definitely know types of orders. It's not a whole lot, but I would certainly know that sell limits and buy stops are above the market. Buy limits and sell stops are below. Yeah, don't overdose on margin. I would do that. What about types of orders, Brian? I think there's more than most
For
people.
7?
Yeah, 7.
For 7? Yeah. Probably 3 to 5.
Yeah. Oh, well, Diana, I say that 60% plus is not knowledge deficit. So while the herd is fresh, I'm going to link to my video podcast episode. You failed. Is it over? Spoiler alert, it's not. And it has 5 steps that you should do in response to that misfortune. And one of those things I'm going to tell you right now, Diana, that I want you to do is print the Series 7 content outline, the PDF on the FINRA website. And I want you to do an intellectual inventory, a self debrief. I want you to go through that document, and in each of the testable items, either put plus, meaning you think you were above par, above passing, and that's something you don't need to work on. By the way, it'll match up perfectly with your printout. 0 means you're at par, and then minus means you're going to work on it next time. And what we're hoping to find is those areas. Now, we want to overlearn everything. So for this next attempt, we want to overlearn and be above par on everything. So that, you get over that top. You don't want to, have that misfortune twice. And then I would give yourself permission to take 3-4 days to refresh and reset and then go for it again. Brian, your comments on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's probably the investment products, options, munis.
Yeah, we know what usually causes the miss.
That's usually where it is.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because we wish we could, help you before. I hate
to do this for it to you, but I'm going to have to run. I got a board meeting.
No worries, Brian. Thank you so much. So
get the P, folks. Keep it simple.
There you go. So just me. Boom, boom, boom. We're getting ready to close up here with our drawing anyway, so Brian's not going to miss too much. 910. I have a playlist for the 910 series 910 playlist, so check it out. I have a little intro, and I would suggest that. I also have a series 9 and 10 exam where you can watch me take it, hit pause and play. So pretty much it's not as big as extensive playlist as some of the other series, but it's certainly there for you. I'm also teaching a series 10 for Kaplan. If you go to the Kaplan schedule, I think the end of this month, I'm teaching a 2-day series 10 for Kaplan. Feel free to join us. The Kaplan discount code is Guru10. Yeah, Brian he's a character in a good way. I love Brian. Yeah, there you go. Well, Sandy, we'll get it next time, right? We'll get it next time. So exempt securities is a noun. It's a list. And then, exempt transactions is how we're selling it. So, you can certainly do some work there. No, there's not another term for beta. I mean, sometimes they use beta as like expected return, but beta is certainly part of the capital asset pricing model. I used it in CAPM, asking the risk variable used in CAPM. It wasn't an option. No, I would be looking for something like expected return or market return or something that's kind of on the edge of beta is what I'd be looking for. Okay, Brian should add the inverse ETF question we talked about to your test. Well, yeah, ETF said inverse goes the opposite direction. I think Brian has one where it goes up to it's a 2x and it goes up, and I'm not sure if he has an inverse one, Ben, but yeah, inverses could be there. All right, let me get out my giveaway tool. Boom. And boom. And let's see here. What would be, what should we use? Hold on just a sec. I keep accidentally shutting this thing down. So the way that the drawing works, let's see, we got a couple more things coming here. Work on your second try. Same thing. I would go get the PDF for the SIE content outline. I'll link to my video about 5 steps to take, and I would follow those 5 steps And it starts with doing a debrief while the hurt is fresh. So while that hurt is fresh, you want to do a debrief yourself. Naughton Marks is a fine firm. Naughton has their SIE is a lot harder than the actual exam. So I would say you could add 5 to 8 points on that. Ben is saying that the word for the drawing tonight is pass. So if you want to participate in the drawing, you would put pass into the chat. And then from there, we will do our drawing. So let me find that. And let me boom, put that. And let me get rid of that. So if you would like to participate in the drawing, you would put pass in there. And then remember, if you win, you claim it. 30-minute coaching call, basically, just so you know, the 30-minute coaching call is actually just tutoring, but I try and distinguish it on the channel between people who have paid for tutoring versus people who are getting free coaching calls. So coaching call is basically whatever you want. Some people like to practice questions. Some people like to, get a tutoring session on a particular topic, whatever you want to do. You can share it. You can, with somebody, you can give it to somebody else if you already passed your exams, whatever, speaks to you, whatever speaks to you. All right. So we got any more entries here? Just make sure I haven't missed anybody. If you're using Naughton Marks, I also have a discount code for Naughton. Brian Marks did a great session over the weekend for 79. Check out the Naughton Marks YouTube channel as well. They don't have a whole lot of stuff, but the stuff they have is really, really good. They have a great video. I'll link to it on analytical methods for 65, 66. It's really good. It's as good as Brian. So I'll put both Brian's there, and I'll put Naughton Marks there as well. All right. Any other entries? All right, here we go. All right, Nathan, you're the winner. So send me an email at deantheseries7guru@gmail.com to claim your prize. I probably won't return your email today, but tomorrow we'll see what works for you in terms of your 30-minute coaching call. Again, I like to knock it out next week sometime. I don't like to have this thing floating around. I like to knock out the coaching call from this Tuesday before we go into next Tuesday. So that's what I would say. All right. Anybody got anything else for me before we call it a night? I know that I'll see some of you in our Zoom overtime session. If you are interested in joining us for the overtime sessions, we don't offer them every time, but we do. And if you are, you can go to dean10etutoring.setmore.com and go to the class. And there's a couple free things there. The Zoom overtime is free. And then there's a free office hour if you're a paid student. That means if you're a paid Kaplan student like Maricela, or a paid tutoring person, or paid Brian, I do classes in the evening sometimes. That is an office hour that is free and available, but that's only available to paid students. So a couple things that are free. All right. Okay, everybody. Well, remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And I will see you next Tuesday for our next weekly live stream Q&A. Bye-bye.